finish this situation off, what we got here, we got some Dynaglass. Now this is like Bondo, but it's got fiberglass fibers added into it to give it a more durable, harder strength situation. Because if we go ahead and just use Bondo, Bondo doesn't have any type of fiber in it. And since we're using fiberglass, we're going to go ahead and use the Dynaglass, you understand what I'm saying, as the tool and the filler compound that we need to fill the gaps in that we're trying to do here.
Welcome to D.I.Y. Automotive School with my friend Pete and Minnie, the body shop girl. It's everything you need to know about cars and more.
I'm going to get me a spreader. Now, we do have a little bit of a problem on that front one, on the passenger side. Okay? We got to fiberglass that up. So we are not going to use this to fiberglass it up. We're going to use fiberglass resin and fiberglass mat. So we're going to take our Dynaglass and mix it up thoroughly, making sure to get rid of all the streaks and discoloration. We want everything to be one solid color, which should turn out to be brown. And if you notice over there on the fender, I got 2-inch tape. When you do this, you want to be very careful, make sure all your paint is taped up, because you definitely don't want to, what?
Get it on the metal.
Get it on the metal.
Whatever.
So we're going to take our Bondo. I'm going to just kind of pull that apart just a little bit, because this will squeeze itself in there. You see how I'm doing that? Mm-hmm. I'm squeezing it in, dude. This is not our finish coat. All this is going to be is our filler coat. See how I'm doing that? I'm squeezing it in there and I'm filling it. Now on this particular one, on this particular side, we had a very small gap over here, and what I'm going to do with that, I'm going to go ahead and just fill it in like I'm doing here. Instead of cut and splice like we got to do on the other side. That was kind of a mess, and we don't really need to go to that extreme. But I'm taking the stuff here, the Dynaglass, I'm taking my Dynaglass and I am stuffing it in to the gap. Do you see how it's like falling in right here? So I want to be very careful around the door. You know, just keep stuffing it in, kind of make it a little bit higher so when it starts to drop in there, it'll float itself down in there. And then what we'll do is we'll let that dry. The Dynaglass will not stick to the tape. We're going to come over here, look at the gap here we got. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing, repeat our process. We're just going to push it in. See how I'm using my spreader here. Can you open that door, please? Very carefully. Okay, go ahead. All right. And what I'm doing is I'm filling that in all the way around, because we want that top edge to be nice and tight on there, see? So I'm filling that in, just like that. And then, if you notice, I'm kind of feathering it into an up position onto the tape, because we want to have enough that we can sand off. But I want to make sure that that's pushed down in there very tight. See there? Okay. And then we'll go ahead and clean this off like that. All right, we'll let that dry. Now come on over here. If you can shut that, don't shut the door, it'll hit that. Look how big this gap is. Now, I was thinking on this one, before we fill it, you think maybe we ought to go ahead and do your the 940 clown trick on this end here?
I would try it, man.
You think we ought to? Because we're going to have to take this whole thing off, grind that out, and then put it back on there. But it might give it a better, because I'm looking at it right here, and that's a big gap, dude. If we cut these corners off a little bit, that might pull it in for us. So let's go ahead and do the 904 clown act on it and see what happens. And then we'll come back to that one. So you can see, by doing this job, this is a very intense and executed job that says it takes a lot of time. I think if I remember in the very first videos, I explained that I would probably take these off 7 or 8 times. I've already taken them off approximately how many times? About 7 or 8 times. This will be about the 9th time that I've had to take this one off and grind. I'm going to grind that fiberglass inside there, get that so it'll push it in. And then once we get it back on there, we'll go ahead and fill this gap in. And then once we do that, do you see how nice and tight it fits here? That's what we're looking for. See that tight fit? Okay, once that's done, we'll go ahead and probably while it's off, I might go ahead and fiberglass this on and fit it on at the same time. So we're going to hold off on this. We don't want to get in a hurry. You can see that this is dry already. All right. And when we remove that over there, that'll give us a nice clean fit. We'll be able to block it down, put some Evercoat on it, and be done with it. So let's get this one off. We'll be back when we start fiberglassing this up, and just keep moving on with the project as 940 tries to diabolically climb up with plans and make my friend Pete look like shit. That ain't fucking happening. The only thing it's showing me is that you're actually learning and you want to work and be somebody in life, like maybe the United States Navy. What do you think of that angle? Huh? What do you think of that angle, bud?
I ain't talking to you on that shit right now.
Oh, so we're not talking about the United States Navy anymore. It's over.
We're not.
It lasted for less than a fucking week. It's a done deal.
We'll see, dude.
Yeah, we'll see.
You don't need to film that shit.
We'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see. 1987 Porsche 928, looking good, and hopefully getting her done. So we got our piece over here. If you remember correctly, I went ahead and taped it off on this side using the Gorilla Tape, which is the best tape to use. Duct tape can be used. Masking tape really you don't want to use on this type of job because the masking tape is too flimsy, so you want to use a nice heavy duty tape that's going to hold it together. Now, if we look on the inside, you can see there's a little bit of a gap there, but it touches at the top and at the bottom. So what's going to happen when I put the resin in there, that's going to fill that gap in, so when I take the tape off the other side, it'll be nice and smooth. We'll have to do just a little bit of minor body work. Now, when you do a job like this, you don't want to push down on it. You just want to leave it nice and natural and leave it like it is. We got some fiberglass resin. We purchased this over at our local manufacturing corporation. Will stick it in your fucking ass hardware store. Make sure you got your hardener with it. We're going to take a throwaway brush such as this right here. This one is actually too big for this job. You can see that. You want to be able to have that brush go in there and dab it and tap it and brush this, that, and the other. Alright, so what I got here, I got some scrap pieces because I don't throw the fiberglass mat away. Now this is mat, this is not cloth. Don't get confused. What you're looking at on here, this pattern, this is cloth, okay? This is a stronger form and this is what would be used on something like this. But when you're doing patchwork like this, you want to go ahead and be able to use the mat due to the fact that the mat will melt into it and give it a more fibrous, stronger fucking repair than using the cloth. So on this repair, we're going to go ahead and use fiberglass mat right here. I got some pieces already cut up, as you can see. And then we're going to go ahead and put our resin in there. Then we'll put our cloth on top of that, and then we'll brush that in there and we'll let that dry. And we'll probably go ahead and put 2 to 3 coats of the fiberglass mat on top of this, layer it on. Once one coat dries, then we'll come back, we'll do another coat, and possibly go 2 to 3 times. All depends, because this is a piece that was cut off from one end to the other, and we want to make sure that that's going to stay on there. Alright, so when you're doing a job like this, make sure you wear your fucking gloves. Gloves are very important. You don't want to get that resin on your skin, but if you do, it comes off very easily with acetone or lacquer thinner. Lacquer thinner will wipe it off. We're going to take our hardener. Now, let me go ahead and explain this real quick. When I mix this up, I don't go by the instructions on here, 10 drops for 6 ounces or whatever the fuck it is. I basically just mix it up to what kind of weather's going on. On a situation like this, when you mix up your fucking resin with your hardener, you can see it's common sense. It actually comes with 2 tubes of these. So you would split this in a section that says, okay, if I got 2 tubes and this equals out to be how many ever ounces it is, equals up to a gallon. This is 0.74, so you got almost 2 ounces to a gallon. You would calculate it out, and that's what you would have. But being the weather that it is today, we're going to actually use less hardener than is required because it's about 90 degrees outside, and the hotter it is, the lesser hardener you use, and the colder it is, the more hardener you use. Because when it's cold out, you don't want it to take a long time for it to dry, and when it's hot out, you don't want it to dry too quick. Okay, so if 940 can hold that, we're going to go ahead and pour our resin here. Now we only want to pour just enough in here to mix for what we're doing, because that's probably more than enough for this little repair for our first coat. And then we're going to go ahead and add our hardener. And I just kind of speculate how much. I really don't, you know, like I said, measure it out and all that shit. But if you want to measure it out, you know, there's the directions on the can. Be my fucking guest, okay? Enough on fucking mixing the shit up. You want to take your throwaway brush, you want to mix that shit up very fucking thoroughly, just like you see me doing right here. Alright, once it's mixed up, take your brush and go ahead and brush a nice coat on. If the 940 can hold the end of that, there you go. Alright. Now, another thing I did here, I want to let you know, I took my 36 grit grinder and I roughed up the back side of this fiberglass so it would have a good surface to stick to. So that will work out well. Now, once you do that, the next thing you're going to do is take your mat, just like so. You're going to stick it up in here. And it's okay if you overlap it. You can always come back and trim it down. And then we're just going to brush this on here very quickly. Okay, because we don't want it to get hard before it dries. Or we don't want it to dry before we get done. And what you're trying to do, you're trying to get rid of all the air bubbles. Okay, air bubbles are what you're trying to get out. And the way that you can tell all the air bubbles out is all the white goes away. When all the white's gone, the air bubbles are gone. And that's what our goal is, no air bubbles. So take another little piece and we'll stick it in this corner. We'll just go ahead and pour that on there like that. And what I'm doing here, I'm overlapping my fiberglass mat. Overlapping the fiberglass mat and making it all work. Getting the bubbles out is very important, especially where the splice that you made is. You want to feather it out, okay, just like that. Do you see what that looks like there, 904?
Yep.
And then you're going to take this one here, we're going to put it the same way. We're going to get our resin. We'll go ahead and just keep going with it. Thought this would have been long enough, but it's not. I'm overlapping it. I'm getting rid of all the air bubbles in it. And it's really starting to take a good picture here. One more little piece right here. We'll go ahead and let that hang over so we can trim it. You see how I'm doing that? Didn't get enough resin under here. When you're putting your fiberglass mat on and it doesn't seem like it's sticking down, that means there's not enough resin underneath the fiberglass mat. Okay. Got to get that looking good, just like that. And then we'll take the rest of it and we'll kind of just pour it on here, let it saturate in that crack there, because it's going to fall right in that valley. You see what I'm doing here? And you can already see how it's starting to gel up on us? Dylan? It's telling me that's starting to really take effect. Okay. So we'll let that sit and dry. When we come back, we'll go ahead and do it one more time if possible, if we have to. And then once that's done, we'll clean it up and it's ready to put back on and start finishing it out. Fiberglass. That's what it's all about right there. Alright, let's look at this over here. I was getting ready to start grinding it, but what we got here now, we got that fiberglass in. If we turn it around, bam, look at there. Filled it in really nice. I'll be able to grind that down, smooth it out. And also, I want you to pay attention. Look at the angle on this. Okay? See how that's got an angle? Well, we were able to keep the angle here. Alright? Now, it's not as definite as this one, but once we get this all molded and get it done, it'll have the effect, and no one will ever know except you, the guy watching this video, and everybody else. It'll be negative to the eye when you look at it. So that's how you're going to fiberglass that together. Like I said on this one here, we went ahead and filled it in. I want to show you that. You can see where I smashed that in there. Remember, I pushed it in, pressed it in. Now I did sand the back of that so this will stick, but you can see how that molded real good. Now what I'll do is I'll block sand these edges out, roll them around, and here's the other one on this side. Alright, there's that one. You can see how it smashed it in. That's going to fit perfectly up next to the car. Super tight. It's going to be a nice airtight fit, and it should be a clean ride when we get done. What next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take a block and I'll block sand that out, start rolling that around, get rid of all this here. I probably won't do anything right here because that's a nice smooth finish on that, and it will stay like that, but we'll clean all the edges up, and then once we fit it in there, you're going to see a big difference. I'm not going to take you through the procedures of sanding. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you know how to sand a fucking car. Alright, you know how to sand Bondo, and that's what you're going to have to do. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and clean this up. I got my grinder right here. If Clown Act can bring the fucking camera over here. And you can see where we had our hangover. I'm going to take my 36 grit very lightly. And then I also cleaned this up over here already, but I want to clean that corner out. Just like that. Okay, now I believe there was a gap on this one right here, so what I'll do is are you watching the camera? 940. I'm going to go ahead and take my grinder. What that's going to do, that's going to rough that area up, so when I put my Dynaglass on it, like you see right here, it's going to have a nice hard surface, and you can see where I'm pulling on it real hard, trying to break it out, and it won't, okay, it's in there forever. So, let me get all that done. I'm going to get into the stage of where we're going to put the primer on them, and when we come back, hopefully these things are going to look awesome. And we still got to fill this gap in. What I did here, I went ahead and grind that out just like we were talking about. You can see that right there. I sharpened that up. And that should pull this in to the car closer, and hopefully everything will be working out right. We'll be back as we are working on our fiberglass pieces here that aren't really worth a shit, but you know what? A little bit of work, a little bit of elbow grease, a little bit of knowledge. I'm sure Clown Hat behind the camera learned some stuff today, didn't you?
Yep.
Yes or no?
Yep.
So, you know, keep watching, and sooner or later we're going to get these done. I think they're going to look great. You can turn it off. off, dude. We gotta get to work.
Thanks for watching D.I.Y. Automotive School. Classes don't stop till you know everything.